Today, I want to talk about cold slides versus warm slides. And I'm talking about PowerPoint slide decks that you're creating, or maybe it's a Google slide deck, or whatever kind of presentation aid you're making. There's cold slides and there's warm slides. You probably know what I'm talking about, right? Cold slides are extremely data heavy and extremely word heavy and detract from a lot of times what you're trying to get at quickly because they're overwhelming your audience. So cold slides are hard to warm up to in terms of what they're communicating, and we want to add warmth to our slides. So how do we do that? Well, cold slides need to be in presentation sometimes because they are showing us numbers or they're bringing together financial data. And I'm not saying that we don't need cold slides, but what I am saying is you want to warm up the cold slide sometimes with an image or a storyline or context to help put your audience in the right frame of mind so they're ready for that cold slide when the time comes. So how do you make a slide feel warm? Well, you do that through creating an inviting slide to look at for your eyes. Our brains are wired for story, right? And that means we like to look at people and color and contrast and images. And that's a way to warm up our brains to relatability with you, the speaker. So when you have a really heavy data slide coming up, which is a cold slide, you might preempt it with a slide that shows a photo or has an image that you're going to share. Or maybe you create warmth by fronting the cold slide with a quick line or two of context that you personally bring to what you're going to tell on that cold data heavy slide. Hopefully this is making sense in terms of how to transition your audience into what's in those colder slides so that you are guiding them, right? Your whole objective with slides is to be a good slide guide. And so if you show a photo, for example, or have an image or a lot of color on part of the slide or an entire slide, prior to walking them into hard data, you're much more likely to keep their attention, have demonstrated relevance, and increase your credibility. So the warm slide versus the cold slide is when you have a lot of cold slides in your deck or a lot of them in a row, how are you going to warm up your audience with your slide design prior to that slide or with yourself, right? And some of the context and setting and framing that you can bring to the data that's coming on the next slide. So that's just a little bit about how to balance your cold and your warm slides. Hopefully you and I can talk more about that in our next session. Thanks for watching.